Hello and welcome to Beyond Business, where we focus on the latest trends in the global economy. Today we're looking at China's ambitions on the silver screen. The movie business is growing rapidly in China. Ticket sales grew by almost a third last year to a value of around $2 billion. And there are plans to build a Chinese version of Hollywood in the city Tianjin. But the ambitions of Chinese filmmakers stretch further than just the Chinese market. They have plans to stretch their wings further afield.
To launch the second Chinese Festival of Paris, the country sent one of its stars best known in Europe, Gong Li, to represent it. The actress, who had played in major productions mainly in the 1990s, described her vision of Chinese movies.
There are two types of Chinese cinema. One shows the way the Chinese live, their daily life, as it really is, and also their various ways of thinking. The other type of Chinese cinema makes expensive, elaborate movies, hoping to please the wider public.
Although China is the most populous nation on Earth, it hopes to get viewers far beyond its borders. The Chinese believe their culture could spread across the world. Hollywood movies already get inspiration there, but they want their own movies to reach Hollywood and not the other way around.
It's
a good thing that American movie makers get ideas in other cultures to put them in their films and then sell them abroad. I just think that Chinese directors should make their own blockbuster movies and sell them abroad. It's a way to promote Chinese culture throughout the world.
I think it won't be easy for them to conquer the world, but they have already taken many initiatives. They invest in American films, they've agreed to joint ventures with American studios, including DreamWorks. They plan to build a Chinawood in Tianjin. It'll focus on producing and promoting films the Chinese will co-produce with the Americans. They make many efforts, invest a lot of money. They want to co-produce Iron Man 3. James Cameron said he's not hostile to a Chinese financial participation in Avatar 2.
The Chinese want to compete with Hollywood, and they're using it as a model.
I believe the Chinese are gradually losing their communist and traditional Confucian values. They're not completely absent because they're tradition, but they're fading away because society is expanding and changing so quickly. It has a strong capitalistic aspect, an egocentric side. People want to succeed. Money rules.
The Chinese aren't just looking at Hollywood. In the Cannes Film Festival, they reached out to French filmmakers too. Producer Ning Ning signed a deal to finance a film to be made by French director Philippe Mouille. Most of it will be shot in China.
We'll film 2 weeks in Beijing, 7 weeks in Guangxi, that's in the south, and then we'll shoot a week in Paris.
The film The Birdwalker will plead for family values and better education.
There's a never-ending race to get money, and during that process, society loses many of its values. Traditional Chinese values are fading away, like family ties, between grandparents, parents and children. Those are the true Chinese values. Without giving out lessons, I try to remind that in the movie. The race to money and fortune is definitely not the best option we have.
At the Cannes Film Festival, China organized the international movie market reception, a move that says they plan to stay in the business.
And for more now on China's efforts to make it big on the big screen, I'm joined here in the studio by Anne Kerlan. She's a researcher at the National Center for Scientific Research here in France, known under the acronym CNRS. Welcome to France 24 and to Beyond Business.
Thank you.
Now, you specialize in Chinese cinema. What do you think are the ambitions of the Chinese cinema industry at this point?
It's an ambition that comes from very far away. Since basically the 1930s, when China found out that cinema was going to be the media and the culture of the 20th century, and that the Western world was really picking up on it. And nowadays, they have the ways to expand. They have the economic way to do so, and they're willing to do so.
They have learned a lot during the past few decades or so.
They've learned a lot because they've been in the situation of observing what was going on, but also receiving a lot of Hollywood films were big hits in China, and they were able to study how this happened and how they could do the same.
You say there that the Chinese want to do the same. Do they have ambitions to become the next Hollywood, so to speak? Do they want to create that huge, world-dominating cinema industry?
Yes and no. I would say for Asia, definitely. They want to be the Hollywood for Asia, meaning that they want the film they're producing in the Asia world to be the big blockbuster, the big hits. And they also want to offer to the Asian world place to produce movie that would be as good as Hollywood. Mm-hmm. Now, when you look on the international, when you look at the big world, they may have this ambition. Hollywood certainly is their standard, their model, but I don't know if they really want to be their direct competitor. That's more questionable, and as they say in the report, it's going to be very difficult for them to hit that point.
What do you think, what's driving those Chinese ambitions? I suppose that goes to the heart of the issue, whether or not cinema in China, is it a business, or is it a form of culture and of cultural influence?
Well, it's difficult to separate both business and culture, but I think they feel like cinema could be a way to put Chinese culture in a better light, to spread it out in the world, and to make it part of the world culture. They know that cinema, and they know that for a long time, because they used cinema as a mass media and a mass propaganda tool. And of course, they do not want to do propaganda films, but they still have this idea that this is a mass media that can reach out to the world very easily and spread their culture, certainly. Yes.
So there is this kind of undercurrent of political and perhaps economic drive as well.
Yeah, everything is mixed together, I would say. But as we hear in the report, there are some values that they consider to be Chinese value, like the family, the question of how important is the family. And they certainly want to highlight those values in their films, and they want to make this part of what they want to show to the world.
Now, here in France, the French government is seen to support the French cinema industry. Is the case the same in China? Is the Chinese government actively supporting movie directors, actors, and the rest of the cinema industry?
Depending which filmmaker, who you are, I would say that the government is supporting the filmmakers that are willing to be part of the strategy of the government to spread out this Chinese culture. So they would support a Zhang Yimou, for instance, who is producing blockbuster, and they would give a filmmaker like Zhang Yimou everything he needs to make movies that would be as important than American films. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, parallel to that, the government is still being very careful about any kind of filmmaker or artist who is going to use cinema to protest against the government and the regime. And there you still have censorship going on and rules that are very complicated to follow, either to make movies or to distribute them in China.
So the regulatory framework is an impediment to the Chinese cinema industry at this stage, at least to some filmmakers.
To some filmmakers, it certainly is, because like some of the filmmakers we see in the International Film Festival, they do not have ways to distribute their films within China, and they have to work in the merging of the system, meaning that on one end, they are more free to show and do what they want, but on the other end, they are not reaching to the audience they want to reach, which are the Chinese people.
Is there an appetite, do you think, for Chinese cinema outside of Asia, here in Europe, for instance, in North America? I mean, if we look at Chinese cinema, how is it different from the European kind, the French kind, or the American kind?
Well, if you look at what we like as Westerners from the Chinese cinema, I would say, on one hand, we really appreciate the way the Chinese cinema is able, for instance, to make connection between the natural world and the story, and that whatever the film is, there is something that is almost, I would say, poetical in the way the Chinese filmmakers are able to use images of nature to make connection with their story. The other very important trend in the Chinese cinema is what we call the martial art and the kung fu, and this is something that comes from Chinese culture that is associated again with some Chinese value like friendship, the heroism, and here the cinema is really using this to make it better and to make people love it.
All right, Anne-Caroline, unfortunately, we have run out of time. Thanks very much indeed, though, for speaking to us here at Beyond Business. And with that, we're going to wrap up the program as well. Thank you for watching France 24, and do stay with us. We have more news coming your way.